Disclaimer. This podcast may contain mentions of violence, rape, and other unsettling themes or ideas. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome, my dear audience, to what I would like to call the Creature Cast. My name is Eli, and I am your host. Here, we will be discussing mythical creatures, obviously, along with their origins, stories, and the works that they've been included in over the years. Up first, in my grimoire, I have a pretty great hybrid creature to focus on for this episode, the Chimera. She was a fearsome, three-headed monster with the front of a lion and the skull of a goat protruding from her back with goat udders underneath. She also had the back end of a serpent or a dragon. In some accounts, it is pictured that she has a human face as well. Now, as she was pretty popular throughout a specific time period, there are many different descriptions of her, some of which being through great works of literature and epic poetry, while others are through great works of art, some of which also picturing her with a goat head atop her lion head, with no skull. The word chimera at the time was often used to describe gross or grotesque things, or even fantastic imaginary beasts, which I'd say she falls under all of those categories. However, in our case, it also means monster or she-goat, when specifically used to refer to her. She breathed fire and was technically seen as a divine force, therefore a god or goddess as well as a fire-breathing hybrid monster, which, if you ask me, is pretty rad. They are mainly known from one of two works: Hesiod's 7th century BC work, Theogony, and Homer's The Iliad, which I'm sure you've probably heard of in your freshman year English class. She's also been mentioned by great writers such as Cicero, Virgil, Ovid, and Plato. It's clear she must have been a pretty popular topic at some point, seeing how she was mentioned by all these talented writers, philosophers, and painted and depicted by so many different artists. She has her own spot in history, frozen in time in the ages of some pretty intense tales. The Chimera was created with no other purpose than to be a monster. She was a composition of parts embodying an ancient fear of women. Females, really. She's known as one of the most terrifying creatures created and used in Greek mythology. She is the offspring of Typhon and Echidna. Typhon was the most dangerous creature alive, while Echidna was a half-woman, half-serpent hybrid. She was beautiful. They had a lot of widely known spawns, like Hydra, the Sphinx, the human lion, my personal favorite, Cerberus, which, if you don't know already, is the three-headed dog, and obviously, today's topic, the Chimera. The Chimera lived in the Lydian countryside. She ravaged and devastated Caria and Lycia. She set buildings ablaze and destroyed homes. Crops were killed, and so were people, if she was furious enough. This was a powerful being, a ferocious monster, something to be feared. Bellerophon was the son of Poseidon. Seemingly normal, there was nothing to worry about. However, one day, he made a grave mistake. He accidentally murdered a man, which means he was sentenced to punishment by the gods. His father sent him into exile, forcing him to live with the king, King Proteus, as punishment. However, King Proteus saw potential in the boy. He parted with his crime. Unfortunately, the wife of Proteus also saw potential in him. Quite a bit more than she should have. She asked and persisted for him to be her lover, and every time he obviously declined the offer. This angered the queen, and as revenge, she decided to cruelly falsely accuse Bellerophon of rape in order to worsen his punishment. King Proteus was angry, outraged even. However, he knew of the immortal blood running through Bellerophon's veins. He was scared of sentencing him to any kind of punishment. He found a solution. He sent the boy to his father-in-law, who devised a simple plan to get rid of him. Bellerophon was challenged to kill the Chimera, a fearsome being. Full intentions on this being a suicide mission in the end, the King Lobates thought that he had ridden everyone of the seemingly cruel boy for good. Though that plan seemed a bit foolproof, Bellerophon had a secret weapon. More so a tool. It was a way to finally defeat the beast, not by sheer strength or power, but by flying above the monster and shooting arrows. To do this, he has a Pegasus, which, if you don't know, is a winged horse, who was born from the blood of the beheaded Gorgon Medusa. A bit of trial and error later, he gets the trick of it, and then he gets some critical hits. He flew in closer, shooting arrows as he progressed towards the beast. Once weakened, he drove a head spear through the beast's flaming throat. The lead spearhead melted and burned her throat from the inside out. Obviously, there can always be more to be said in the story, and this is only a shortened section of a much bigger and detailed story. However, I think it does a pretty good job explaining the Chimera's story and demise. Though I do think it was cruel to kill her as someone else's punishment. It's not like she didn't deserve it, though. People still use the Chimera as an example to challenge their players, characters, or heroes. She appears in shows, movies, books, and video games. She now resides in the realm of fantasy and sci-fi and has been featured in many franchises such as Yu-Gi-Oh!, Final Fantasy, and World of Warcraft. The Chimera was, and I quote, near invincible. This is mainly due to her immense line strength, cunning of a goat, and the venom of a deadly snake. Her best and most powerful weapon was definitely her fire breath, which is always an awesome self-defense mechanism and weapon, if I may say so for myself. The Chimera was a creature of epic proportions, not only physically, but in her own abilities and quirks as well. Her family's filled with so many iconic and well-known mythical creatures like Cerberus, who I hope to share about one day in the future. However, this is all that we had planned for this episode. But if you would like to look more into this topic or any others that I will cover in more depth, I will leave my sources and some brief research in the research tab of the CreatureCast website. If you would like more to listen to, and if you like anime, you can check out the Weeb Talk podcast by Kai and Skylar in my class. Thank you all for joining me on this episode of CreatureCast, and I will definitely see you all next time.